Like, how much was like human error? Like, the other guy was put on Snapchat and whatever, but like, was it human error or was it just, oh, it's just because coincidence that bad Snapchats
at
and
the end of irregular verbs when making them in the past tense. That's only for regular verbs.
This is Luke Rockwell, or as some of you may know him as Teacher Luke. Raised in Melbourne, Florida, the now 29-year-old was introduced to a wide online audience around the time that TikTok began exploding in popularity in the United States. The premise of his account seemed simple enough from afar. Luke was an excellent speaker and used his understanding of the English language to create short-form videos centered around proper pronunciation and phrasing.
Do not say, explain me or explain you. Instead, you should add the word to. For example, I'm going to explain to you.
Teacher Luke's account had immediately become an asset for foreign speakers to better understand the language, though this wasn't all the account consisted of, as he'd also post a variety of other mildly interesting travel-related videos.
Top countries that are the most dangerous to travel to in the year 2022.
And at some, he even took a go at making some more comedic-based content.
I didn't realize until I came to Thailand that I hate Thais. I'm just gonna say it. The weather is just too hot, man, to wear them around your neck.
But none of these were the reason that the account grew to the size it did, as initially his page was followed by nearly 3 million TikTok users, thanks mainly to his more edgy content, leading to some clips that I'm certain some of you have seen before.
How do you say this word? Today I'm going to teach you 3 different ways to say this word. Some have a hard R and some do not.
Negro is the common word used to call black people in Thailand. When I first moved here, I was shocked to hear it because in Western culture, it's a pretty offensive word.
It's hard to label this content that thrust Luke's page into the spotlight, but I guess it could be described as baiting his audience into thinking he's saying something problematic, but instead making it a loosely educational moment, thus vindicating himself from anything he said. Like I mentioned before, these videos were definitely edgy, so much so that in 2020, his page was actually terminated by TikTok, thus leaving him all the way back at square one. Undeterred though, he kept on creating, launching a new account under the username English with Teacher Luke, and within only 1 year, it had already gained over 1 million followers back.
1 million followers on this account. Thank you guys so much. It's so crazy that 1 year ago on my old account, I hit 1 million on the same day.
it's kind of crazy to do that on TikTok. 3 million followers doesn't get you shit. You know, like on YouTube, like when you get like a million subscribers, you get like more help from like the people that work there, or whatever. 3 mil, and they don't give a fuck.
His content was seemingly inevitable, with each video being primed for virality. But what many might not have known was that his passion for the English language, as unserious as it may seem from these videos, reached far deeper than just the online world. In 2019, Luke packed his bags and moved all the way across the world to Thailand, where he would use his love of the language to get a job as an English teacher, working with students from K-12 while simultaneously having a flourishing career on TikTok. All factions of his life were thriving, and for a moment it seemed everything in his world was going right. How could he ever fail? US teacher and TikTok star accused in Thailand of having sex with a teenager. Luke Rockwell was released on bail after he was charged in Bangkok with luring a minor for indecent purpose. With one article, one headline, the facade of English teacher Luke had crumbled. But how did it all go so wrong, and what exactly happened that led to his arrest? Well, it started shortly before the news broke, when a 16-year-old living in Bangkok visited her doctor's office, complaining of intense stomach pain and discomfort. After administering a series of tests, doctors would determine that the girl had contracted not just 1, but 2 STDs, with her only partner having been Luke Rockwell. Her mother was furious upon the revelation and immediately took her to the police, where a full investigation was done, revealing some truly damning information. It was discovered that before the pair had met up for the first time, they had been messaging back and forth for roughly 5 months, and during this time, Luke lured her and eventually convinced her to sleep with him. And while this is horrible enough, some agencies actually reported that the girl was a former student, and had become a fan of his content, which led her to reconnect with her former teacher, insinuating that the grooming may have stemmed back even further than just those 5 months. But I need to note that I was unable to find any solid proof of this, so take these reports with a grain of salt. But what is known for sure is that while they were seeing each other, Luke asked the girl to keep their relationship private until she had turned 18, so as to not turn any heads. And during this time, Luke never mentioned having STDs, and instead he promised the girl that he was clean, even lying to the point that he had showed her a copy of his medical history, which was likely either forged or completely out of date. Luke's actions were heinous, and his words were that of a man who knew he was doing wrong, yet actively trying to get away with it anyway. And if all these charges weren't horrible enough, the investigation into Luke revealed one final pervert
If I say anything, you're just gonna spend some dumb shit.
nail in his coffin, as the investigators had discovered undeniable proof that these alleged encounters had taken place. Proof that came in the form of video recordings that were all done without the victim's knowledge. Following the discovery, Luke...
If I say literally a word about the video, you're just gonna say, defend it, blah, 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 blah. I'm not...
was arrested and his TikTok page was removed once more. But despite the evidence for these charges lobbied against him, it appears that Luke isn't actually in prison, at least not yet. As after quickly making bail, some internet users claim that they've seen him around Bangkok, enjoying his life and acting as if nothing happened, even posting stories on what appears to be his secret private Instagram. I was unable to find any updates outside of this, making it unclear whether Luke is still on bail, if he's been taken back into custody, or if he ended up beating the charges. So for now, it's uncertain how Luke's story will end. But it's still disheartening to know that his presence is still looming out there in the shadowy corners of the online world.
Classic Thailand.
October 25th, 2022.
Classic Thailand, actually true.
The bell rings throughout the halls of the Jiwon Middle School.
I don't know when people want to do creepy shit, they always go to Thailand. Bro, what's up with Thailand? Is it like loose laws, something like that? Like, every time people want to do dumb shit, cringe shit, it's always Thailand. Oh, why? Philippines, Thailand, it's very, very common.
The Jiangxi province of China, marking the start of another class period. Jiuyuan was not your standard middle school.
I don't know
For
how you say
starters,
that.
it was
Thailand,
stretching roughly
fucking
600 acres around, and it featured dorm rooms where the students would stay full time, sometimes even being accompanied by their parents. And on top of this, the huge complex was guarded and enclosed by a large wall topped with barbed wire. It was certainly a unique place, to say the least. But as the nearly 3,000 students across the campus piled into their different classrooms, one student failed to take his seat. 15-year-old Hu Xinyu. The teacher waited 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, growing more and more annoyed at the boy's tardiness. However, this annoyance would slowly turn to worry, as by the time the class period had ended, there was still no sign of the boy, prompting an immediate campus-wide search, yet he was nowhere to be found. And most chillingly, there was no record of him leaving out of the school's guarded exit. Confused, staff checked the campus security footage, where they would find Hu walking out of his dormitory, heading in the direction of his class, which was located in a building no more than a few hundred feet away. Yet he never made it there. Instead, the campus cameras revealed a blind spot of only 10 meters between his dorm room and that class building. A blind spot that no student, and likely no faculty, aside from maybe a select few, could have known about. And yet, within that blind spot, Hu had vanished into thin air. In between these buildings was a path that led to a large park on the premises, in which many assumed Hu had probably slipped into. But when police checked the area with their tracking dogs, their search yielded nothing. So they took things a step further, this time doing a deeper search of the campus itself, even looking into septic tanks and water tanks, checking every square inch. But again, no trace of the boy was found. All they could uncover was his cell phone and other personal belongings that were left behind in his room, with the only object of his missing being a small recorder that he had purchased a few days before. It was believed that at the time of his disappearance, that recorder was literally the only item he had taken with him. Somehow, this young boy had disappeared within the tightly watched walls of his school, with there being no sign of him on campus and no evidence that he had ever left. Despite the fact that China, and this area in particular, is blanketed in cameras, seemingly watching every single inch, but Hu was nowhere. It was as if the school had swallowed him whole. Shortly after his disappearance, Hu's mother began desperately posting to Douyin under the account Xinyu's Mother Searching for Son, where she begged the public for help in finding her missing child, with the clips of these plaintive pleas sparking immense interest from a vast number of people across the web, leading to the case immediately exploding in popularity that only continued to grow as new disturbing information began to surface. It started with a revelation made by an internet user in China who mentioned that Hu was not the first student to go missing from the school. In fact, these disappearances were becoming seemingly a yearly occurrence, prompting immediate speculation about the school and their potential involvement in these disappearances.
The fuck?
With the school becoming more suspicious, as reports began emerging that once police had arrived, they realized that there was data missing from the CCTV cameras, with many of the cameras on the premises conveniently malfunctioning on that specific day that Hu had vanished, almost as if the footage had been deleted afterwards. But not before one of the guards had supposedly snuck a video, which he claimed exposed what really happened that fateful day.
Oh, I mean, rip him, to be honest.
Huh?
Yo, what the fuck? Yo?
I'm not sure if I'll be able to show it here, but the grainy CCTV footage shows what looks to be a young boy, lying limp before being placed onto a stretcher and carried away, with many online taking the clip and running with it, claiming adamantly that it was Hu, and that he had clearly been kidnapped. And this wasn't the only supposed recording of the incident, with the other evidence coming from the recorder that Hu had been carrying. But although at this point the device was never recovered, one internet user claimed that it featured a cloud storage system, in which he was able to hack into and access Hu's final recording from that day, with this clip being even more disturbing.
Why is there echo? Oh shit, sorry.
With all these claims and supposed evidence making their way across the internet, everything seemed to point to Hu's disappearance as being one massive conspiracy, one in which the school was not only working to cover up, but also seemed to actively
you just kept saying you killed me.
play a role in. But why? What was so special about Hu that made him a target?
Same thing over and over again.
Well, one account from a supposed student of the very same school stated that before the boy had vanished, the school held a mandatory health evaluation, where Hu's blood was drawn, revealing that his blood type was P. And if that doesn't sound like any sort of blood type you've heard before, it's because it's one of the rarest in the world, as in China, only about 12 out of 1 million people have it. Because of this, it was claimed that Hu had been killed in order for his organs to be harvested and used as a transplant for a local official who shared the same rare blood type. The story was compelling, and with the school's suspicious history of disappearances, people in the area began to protest at its gate, demanding to know what was going on, to which the principal and the staff lashed out in anger, acting crazed as if they had something to hide. Which only added further fuel to the fire. And with all these disturbing accounts and details coming out from all across the web, the fire raged more and more intensely as the theories grew wilder and wilder, until January 29th, 2023, when a man walking his dog stumbled across the body of Hu Xinyu as it hung lifelessly in the woods, alongside a brick wall just barely 60 meters away from his school. Next to his body was the voice recorder that had multiple audio messages stating his intentions to end his own life, which was done using his own 2 shoelaces. In the time since his body was discovered, lots of new information has been brought forward by officials, who sternly stated that both the recording and the video of Hu had been completely faked, along with a variety of other details that the press had leaked, and that an autopsy revealed that he had no injuries other than those that were self-inflicted, and most importantly, that the body included all of its organs. It was also discovered that his journal revealed that he was more troubled than many had believed, and that he was going through a difficult time, with his grades suffering drastically, leading to these dark thoughts. The whole case was honestly a mess, and especially the coverage during the height of its popularity, as it's now clear that people were simply making up stories and even evidence, which the media ran with without question, leaving us in a strange place where it's impossible to tell which stories and which details were actually real. But to this day, the case still remains polarizing, with many continuing their suspicion of the school and their involvement. With the most common arguments being that the school had been searched over and over and over again, and yet no one saw the body. Along with this, many have taken exception to the idea that Hu could have carried this all out with just his shoelaces, as he was there for over 3 months. Could they really have supported his entire body weight for that long without snapping? Well, some people actually tested out the strength of these shoelaces to see for themselves, leading to various degrees of success.
来，1、2、3。大家伙，咱们看一看啊。
Prompting the theory that Hu's body was somehow planted there afterwards, or that it wasn't even him. So despite this case technically being closed and the investigation now...
If they know what person the organs would go to, can they check for like scars or whatever, or can they just prove it or something like that? I mean, you can't just fucking spawn them in without fucking any trace, no?
It's still very much alive here in the online world, where people continue to question what exactly happened to Hu Xinyu.
Let's take a look at Dewey's Rules of Water Safety. Now, if you ever find yourself in trouble in the water, relax. If there's an emergency, go to the nearest telephone and dial 911. You got it? Good.
Delta P?
Delta P?
It was a freak occurrence. 47-year-old Deborah Stevens was making her way through her typical route delivering newspapers, when suddenly, the skies opened up, dropping down a historic flood on Fort Smith, Arkansas. But knowing she had a job to do, Deborah pushed on, dodging closed and flooded roads in an attempt to get to her usual paper route. A risky decision that proved costly, as upon attempting to take a new path behind a set of apartment buildings, Deborah's car would be swept up into the floodwaters, pinning her vehicle against a set of trees. And in a panic, she calls the police.
911, where's your emergency?
I have an emergency, a severe emergency. I'm in a flooding. My car veered off the road while I was doing my newspapers, and I'm flooded over here on the end of Kincaid, and it's all the way up to my windows, and I can't get out, and I'm scared to death, ma'am. Can you please help me really
I
bad?
need you to calm down. I need you to tell me where you are.
Upon establishing contact with 911 operator Donna Renew, the two began their work trying to determine where exactly she had been trapped, as this area was completely unfamiliar to Deborah.
I don't know, ma'am. I'm on the end of Kincaid down here by these apartments. There's some apartments on Kincaid. I don't know what they're called.
What color is your vehicle?
Yeah, dark. It's gray SUV, lady. The water's all the way up to my windows.
Okay, hold on for me. Don't hang up. And you're at close to the area 5801 Kincaid?
Yes, ma'am. I need help right now.
The urgency of the situation is clear just by hearing Deborah's voice, as she pleads with the operator to send someone out to her as soon as possible, recognizing that the water was likely going to consume her in the following minutes, leading to Deborah growing more and more panicked.
Please send somebody fast to get me. I'm scared.
Okay, listen
I
to me.
can't
Calm
swim.
down
I
for
can't
me.
swim. I'm gonna drown.
You're not going to drown. Just calm down.
Well, ma'am, it's all the way up to my chest.
Okay,
Please hurry.
Just calm down.
Hold on for me.
I'm scared. I'm sorry.
Just calm down.
It's fine to be scared. You have a right to be scared.
Classic.
I'm scared.
Though this is where this fairly normal 911 call begins to take a strange turn, as Deborah's urgency was not reciprocated by the operator, who began to not only dismiss Deborah's worries, but seemingly become annoyed at the trapped woman.
What?
Somebody save me.
Am I not on the phone with you trying to get you some help?
Yes,
Okay, so stop.
somebody give me help before I die. I'm sorry.
You're not going to die. I don't know why you're freaking out. It's okay. I know the water level is
I'm
high.
scared.
I understand that, but you freaking out is doing nothing but losing your oxygen up in there, so just calm
But
down.
are they not
So
gonna
dumb.
come get me?
You said what? I'm sorry?
When are they gonna be here?
As soon as they get there.
Man, my phone's gonna
Chat,
die. They're not gonna
isn't that their job to like assess the actual level of risk at that point and to fucking give them like a strategy? I think I've heard some dispatchers being like, yeah, like go down when is it like a fire and shit like that. And at this point, brother, level water up to the chest. I mean, brother, if you're not like there physically, all we're trying to help, she's gonna GG already.
I mean, it's gonna run my brand new phone.
Do you really care about your brand new phone? I mean, you're over there crying for your life. Who cares about your phone?
And this frustration only grew more and more visceral, as she then
Wait,
began to
can they
place
do-
the
give her a
blame
strategy
onto
or
Deborah
anything?
for getting into this predicament in the first place.
hold
What?
on, okay?
Thank you. I'm sorry if I'm rude, but I'm
You're not
scared.
being rude. I know you're scared. Just calm down for me.
I'm scared. I've never had anything like this happen to me before.
Well, this will teach you next time. Don't drive in the water.
Couldn't see it, ma'am. I'm sorry, or I wouldn't have.
I don't see how you didn't see it. You had to go right over it, so.
No, ma'am.
Oh my
I was
God.
I was in a parking lot.
How are you arguing with someone that's
The
drowning,
water just
dude?
didn't appear.
At this point, the call had been
What?
going on for well over 15 minutes, but still no help had become visible to Deborah, who, despite knowing just how close to death she was, remained as composed as she could be, just thankful to have someone there talking to her, even if that person on the other end of the
Worrying is
line
nothing.
was dismissing her and demeaning her.
I'm sorry, ma'am. What's your name?
Donna.
Donna, thank you for being here for me, Miss Donna.
You're welcome.
Though all of this failed to stop the obvious annoyance of the operator, who after nearly 20
Actually, better
minutes now
dispatcher
couldn't
than
help
the
but
one on the
sneak
phone.
in
That's
a
insane.
lie.
In between both apartment complexes on this street, at the dead end.
In the very back side, there's a bunch of trees.
Right there. She showed us 5801 at the end.
Before finally just losing it.
These people are out. They can all see me. They're all standing out there watching.
Miss Debbie, you're gonna have to shut up, okay? I need you to
I'm
listen.
sorry.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait, she can
The
see
whole
them?
call had been leading up to this moment, as Donna's frustration had finally boiled over, as she straight up tells the helpless woman to shut up. Though despite this demand, Deborah couldn't keep quiet for long, as the situation that was teetering on the edge of life and death suddenly collapsed.
It's helping me pin your location, so don't hang up on me. Okay, where are you moving to? Tell me where it's going. Okay, tell me where you are. Listen to me, hold on. I'm on the phone with her right now. She is legit freaking out. She said the vehicle is now moving in the water and she doesn't know which way it's going, so stand by. Bye. Bye.
Brother.
Huh?
I'm standing around the very back side of the apartment complex on the southeast side, and the only part of her car I can see is the roof and the dome light that's on in it. I can't get out there to her, and you're gonna have to wait out here to me to get to me, so.
It would take officers approximately 12 hours to find Deborah's car, where inside she was dead. Her final moments of life being captured on a 911 call, where the operator couldn't even pretend to care. And her predicament was made even more heartbreaking in hindsight, as it was revealed that Deborah was handicapped and couldn't even swim. In fact, she had a crippling
Yes, he
fear
said
of water.
that.
Following the release of this dispatch call to the public, heavy criticism was immediately placed onto Donna Renew, with hundreds and thousands of people signing petitions calling for criminal charges to be made against her. But no such charges were ever made. In fact, she wasn't even fired for her role, because this was her final shift anyway. She had submitted her 2 weeks' notice exactly 2 weeks before, and this just so happened to be her final shift, which perhaps explains her
Oh,
attitude.
that's so lucky, man.
And with one last cruel twist to the story, just 3 weeks after Deborah's passing, her mother Nancy would pass as well, with family members claiming that it was due to a broken heart, and the stress caused by the ordeal.
Oh.
Though despite this, and the fact that Donna Renew has never apologized for her actions, Deborah's family has
Fucking
gone on to
bitch,
forgive
man.
her nonetheless, with this amazing act of virtue shining a faint light on one of the darkest cases I've ever come across.
Yeah, that's criminal negligence if I ever heard it. The fuck?